Hello, I thought that I would share with you today a card that we actually made in the last card buffet class, which is this one here, which is using the Irresistible Blooms stamp set, and it's also Irresistible Blooms designer series paper. The idea behind this card is using some of those little tiny offcuts that you have of your paper. So let's get started. I've got some pretty peacock cardstock, which is half a sheet of A4. I have got 2 pieces of white cardstock which measure 10 centimeters by 14.4. Ahead of time, one of them I have embossed using one of the 3D Basics embossing folders. This is also a part of the online exclusives. Now, please don't be deterred in looking at purchasing online exclusives. All it means by online is that they're not in a paper production, so there's no catalogue that they're in. They're just, you can view them online, but anyone can purchase them. So this is one of the Basics 3D embossing folders. So I'm not sure how well that will show up, or even the embossing. It just gives it really, really nice texture. The other thing I've got a piece of pretty peacock cardstock which measures about 8 centimeters by 8 centimeters, and I've got a 7.5 by 7.5 white square. I've also got my pieces of designer series paper which are 2 centimeters by about 7.5, 8 centimeters, which will be stuck onto the square. And I've also got one of the stylish shape circles as well to stamp my sentiment. So let's get started with this card. As always, fold your card in half and grab your bone folder. So the reason I'm showing you this card is it's a really easy one to reproduce with what products you've got at home. You can just keep reusing the same design. So we've got a little bit of sticking to do. So with your strips, and these strips are all from the one package of papers, that way then the colours coordinate really, really nicely. And you can put them in any order that you like. And of course, you can choose whichever side you like as well. I am going to be using a little bit of the Tombow glue, and I'm just going to smear some of that on. And then line up my strips. The bonus about using Tombow glue for this particular card is that you have some time to wiggle your strips before they completely stick. Whereas if you use your double-sided tape, you need to be pretty spot on and perfect straight up. And final piece. So as you can see, using the Tombow just makes it really, really quick and easy. So I'm just going to do a small touch of a trim up on that edge there. And probably this one too. So you can use your paper trimmer or just grab your scissors just to make those edges nice and neat. I'm just taking maybe just a touch more off that one. Let's see how that goes. And a little bit more. You might cut your pieces just a touch better than what I've done mine. And then that will stick onto that piece there. So just trim up as needed. You could almost do your strips of designer series paper just a touch longer than the piece of the white or the base piece. So I am actually going to move on to my double-sided tape. So I do have Stampin' Seal. Just remember that little tick. I have been sharing the tips, so you may have already heard these tips for this particular product. Don't use too much pressure. If you put too much pressure on, you actually break this bit of plastic in here, which means then you're up for a new refill. So not too much pressure. That bit of a tick at the end, and of course, I don't know how well you can see, but there's that little section there. Put your index finger there, and you want to hold it fairly flat. You don't want to be up on its tip like that. Okay, this is a nice quick card to make. As I mentioned, I have done my embossing ahead of time. So as I mentioned, keeping the seal nice and straight. You don't want to go too much just down straight from the top. And sticking this onto the front. Okay, so really quite simple. If you don't have a machine to do your embossing, you could do some background stamping, just leave it plain. Okay, some dimensionals next. And I'm going to be using some minis, and I'm also going to use my Take Your Pick tool. So this one is probably my all-time favourite tool. My most used tool, of course, is the paper trimmer, but my favourite tool is most definitely the Take Your Pick tool. I just love that it has the piercing tool. It also has a little spatula end, and of course that putty end for picking up little bits and pieces is perfect. Along with the other attachments it also has a die brush as well. So for anything intricate, you can actually use that as well. Okay, so we're going to line that up over the top there. Okay, almost done. As I mentioned, this is a nice quick card to do. I do have Pretty Peacock ink, which is the green from the paper, and I'm going to do we'll stick with Hooray It's Your Day. I think it's quite a versatile sentiment, so you can actually use it for any occasion, and then perhaps just finish the inside off with another stamp, perhaps a happy birthday or happy anniversary, just depending on, or, you know, congratulations on your new job, something like that. So my Pretty Peacock ink pad is a bit old, and it does have some funky looking bits in the middle. So ignore that if you can see that, and center your sentiment. And of course, you don't have to be perfectly straight when you're stamping on a circle. You just turn it to mount it straight on your card front. Okay, as I said, this is a really quick and easy card to do. Gain some dimensionals because I like to use dimensionals. One thing to keep in mind if you are using dimensionals, if you are posting cards overseas, I recommend not using them because they're not flat enough, and you'll end up paying a huge amount of postage and have to fill in custom forms for sending a card. So just keep that in mind if you're sending stuff overseas. All right, there we go, that's onto the front. Just before I finish it off with the little gems, which are the loose dots, which are a part of this selection of products, I'll just do the inside because I'll be mounting those little gems on Tombow, and I need that to have just a few minutes to dry before we start moving it around. Okay, so finishing off the inside. And of course, if you've got another offcut of Designer Series paper, you could put a strip on the inside too, just to finish that off a little bit more. Okay, so these little gems are just here. They are frosted, I can't remember the exact name, but they are frosted little gems that don't have any adhesive on the back of them. And most of the time our gems do. So this one is just a different type of the gem. So, and they do sit up quite a little bit as well. Now with these ones, I have in the past with not much success used the putty end because I haven't been able to get them off. So some tweezers, either ordinary tweezers or the reverse tweezers, which I really love for crafting because they've got a few different purposes. Okay, so a few drops of Tombow and then picking up the gems and placing them on. But I have found most definitely the easiest way to do these little gems is using a pair of tweezers. All right, so there you have the completed card. It is a nice quick card to do. It's a simple design. You can use up all those little scraps of your designer series paper, or even coloured cardstock if you've got some of that as well. You could include that too. If you don't have the die cutting machine, just do another square or do a rectangle, just something to put your sentiment in the middle. A super, super easy design that will take you no time at all to pull together. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this video, please let me know. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.